we at Excel Academy are keyboard people, and I know that you either are a keyboard person or you want to become a keyboard person. All right. I also know that you prioritize your own efficiency and learning and growth, and that's why you're here. All right. So we're going to make this extremely worth your while. And one of the resources that we've got for you here is our very, very handy keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. You might have received a physical copy of this if you were at the HR Works breakfast last week. Otherwise, or even if you did get a physical copy, you can download or open up the, okay, there we go. We've got our soft copy PDF, and you'll see I've actually got another PDF open in Adobe at the moment. So this is the second PDF that I've got open here, and I've got my Adobe window, which I want to actually hide or modify. I want to just simplify it a little bit. So I'm going to show you a couple of view tools that we can use with some keyboard shortcuts as well. And after all, we are keyboard people or wanting to become keyboard people. And that's why it says it at the top there. And we're going to apply that belief and that principle into all the work that we do, not only into Excel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the menu up at the top. All right. And I'm going to go down to where it says view. All right, and I see that I can either put it into read mode or full screen mode. Okay, so I'm going to use Control and L for full screen mode, and there we go. Now I've got my keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet in full screen mode. It looks much neater and more professional, and if I press the right arrow, I'll go to the second page of it, which is the back of your cheat sheet. All right, we're going to be going through a lot of these keyboard shortcuts over the course of the hour. All right, and the balance are covered in our Excel 101, 202, and 303 courses, which we'll talk about as well. And what I want to do now is I want to toggle between different windows or applications on my computer. So I'm going to hold down Alt with my left thumb, and I'm going to press Tab with my left index finger. All right, and that's going to let me toggle between the two most recently used windows or applications. All right, it actually comes up with all the currently open and active applications that I've got, but it's showing on my other screen. So that's why you couldn't see that. So if you were to hold down Alt, you could press Tab, 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 Tab until you find the application that you want. All right, it's often easier than taking your mouse and trying to navigate around the bottom taskbar of your screen. All right, by the way, what did I open? I opened Keyboard Shortcuts PC because I'm working on a PC, a Windows computer, and I'm assuming most of you are, if not all of you. Some of you might be on a Mac, and some of you might be on Google Sheets, and the keyboard shortcuts are same, but different. Okay, some are the same, and some are different. All right. Okay, now I'm going to open up the actual file, the actual spreadsheet. All right, and here we have it. You'll see that my formula bar is slightly expanded. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reduce the size of it. Yours might be there. It might actually be missing. If your formula bar is missing at any point in time, we don't have to panic. We don't have to call IT. We don't have to close Excel and reopen and hope that it works itself out. We just have to think about which tab on the ribbon should I go to, and I want to view my formula bar. So I go to the view tab, and you'll see that there's a tick box, a check box next to formula bar. If I tick it and untick it, you can see it shows and hides the formula bar. And next to the formula bar, we've got our name box. How do I know that it's called the name box? Because I can hover my mouse cursor over it, and there we go. It tells me exactly that this is the name box. I also have 3 dots. I can adjust and personalize it to my fancy. And then the next thing to do is to notice what do we actually have in our spreadsheet. We're going to look at the data in a few moments, but I think it actually makes sense to have a look at the top of our screen and just to see this is the data for the Excel Masterclass today. All right, it is also saying read only, and it's saying save to this PC. Now, your version of Excel might look and feel slightly different. Yours might not have the name of the file up at the top of the ribbon. It also might not be green. It might be in a slightly different color, different format. Your quick access toolbar, which is this toolbar over here, might be sitting up at the top of your screen. All right, so the look and feel might be different. That's because of the different version of Excel. So the look and feel tweaks over time. It used to be every 3 or 4 years when a new version of Excel was released. All right, and now Microsoft are really pushing everybody to be on their Microsoft 365 subscription, where you pay annually and you get real-time updates on the go. You don't have to wait to for 3 years to go to exclusive to Incredible Connection to buy the disc. Those days are gone, and now you're getting updates all the time. All right. So what I want to do is I want to actually save this file in a location on my computer. And I definitely don't want to be working inside of a zipped folder. You would have downloaded this zipped folder onto your computer. You've opened up the Excel file. We now want to save it somewhere, preferably somewhere cloud-based, somewhere that is backed up, and somewhere that synchronizes with our other devices and with our colleagues. All right, so that there is a backup just in case somebody else needs to work on it, or we need to work on it on another computer, or our computer crashes, or our laptop gets stolen, or we spill our coffee onto our machine. Whatever happens, we want this to be saved and backed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start there. Before we do any work, let's make sure that we save this in the correct place. I'm going to press F12 on my keyboard. All right, F12. If you're working on a Mac computer, you won't have those F keys. So your keyboard shortcut will be slightly different, and you'll need to just consult your cheat sheet for that. But for all of us on a Windows computer, we're going to press F12 on our keyboard. What you might need to do, and Avi will confirm this in the chat, is that you might need to actually press Function and F12. In other words, you hold down the FN key and you press F12, and that's if you're on a small laptop keyboard, and that's if your keyboard settings are such that you need to hold down the function key. All right, I don't actually have a function key because I'm working on my desktop with a big keyboard over here, so there's no function key, and I can just press F12 on my keyboard. All right, and that opens up the save as dialog box. All right, and you'll see here that I've got this local temp. If I look at the top, that's my address, and this is a strange looking location. I don't want to save it there. I don't want to be saving and working in a temporary zipped folder. I want to make sure that I save it into Dropbox. What I've done, you can see I've pinned a whole lot of commonly used folders and subfolders for me and for Avi. I've pinned them to the quick access on the left hand side. So I actually have the monthly masterclass from last month over there, and then today's session over there. All right. If you look carefully, you will notice, and I don't have to tell you, but I think it's mandatory that everybody who enters Comrades tells you that they're running Comrades. So you can see a subfolder over there. You can drop us a line in the chat if you also happen to be training for Comrades, which is around the corner. All right, but we want to save this in the monthly masterclass folder, and we want to put a special name, or we want to tweak the name of the file so that we know that something's unique about this particular copy of this file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the words copy of, and I'm going to press end to go to the end of the file name. And what we like to do at Excel Academy is we attach our initials to the end of the file name so that I'll know and Avi will know that I've worked on this file. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put DS, and that will synchronize through Dropbox. It will be saved and synced to my other devices and to Avi's computer in case he needs to pick up where I left off. So we got to get some of that admin housekeeping out of the way up front, and then to just set the tone, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be saving frequently. All right, that's a habit. We know we're creatures of habit, and it's really a good idea to train your brain and your fingers and your muscle memory that Control S is a really, really crucial keyboard shortcut to keep saving your work, especially if you do something significant to your data, like we're going to be doing over the course of the hour. Okay, so next up is on the topic of Control S and save. What you'll notice is that what you probably have on your quick access toolbar is a little button which has a little floppy disk. Okay, those of us who are old enough to remember the stiffies and floppies, all right, that's what you got there, the icon for save. And I don't have it for a couple of reasons. Firstly, my quick access toolbar is showing below the ribbon. All right, so there it is instead of above the ribbon. So you might, depending on your version of Excel, you might be able to right click on one of those buttons on your quick access and say show below the ribbon or show above the ribbon. All right, so you might be able to right click there and say show below the ribbon, which personally I prefer. All right. What you'll notice on mine is that I've got a set of unique icons or buttons over here, because what I've done is I've removed save and undo and redo, because I know I don't need them there, because I know the shortcuts for them. Control S for save. And if you hover your mouse cursor over it, you'll see that. Okay. Control S for save. Or if I go to the file menu, I've got save over there, as we know. All right. And Control Z for undo and Control Y for redo. So that's why I have actually right clicked and I've said remove those icons from quick access toolbar. And then if I wanted wrap text, for example, on my quick access toolbar, I can right click and say add to quick access toolbar. It's as simple as that. If I want to remove it, I right click and I say remove from quick access toolbar. Speaking of quick, if I am going at any point a little bit too quick for you, you can rest assured that we are recording this and we will make the recording available to you tomorrow morning. You will receive an email from us with the link to the recording, as well as the link to download the zipped folder. So even if you are watching the whole thing and you're happy and you're following along and doing all the work, it may well be worth your while to actually revise. All right. And speaking of doing the work, that's what this is about. Okay. This, in case you're wondering, this is not like Netflix or Supersport where you just sit back and watch and eat popcorn. We really do recommend that you're doing all this work with us as we go, because we learn by actively getting involved and doing, as opposed to just watching. All right. Okay. So let's dive into the actual data. We do notice that the text is quite small. It's font size 11. And what I want to do is I want to zoom in a little bit. So I've got this handy zoom bar at the bottom right-hand corner. I can see it's 100% zoom. I can click on the plus button a couple of times, and now I am zoomed into 120%. What I can do, which is somewhat quicker and easier, is actually hold down the control key with my left finger. So the control key, and then scroll with the wheel on the mouse. All right, so as soon as I do that, I can scroll up to zoom in and scroll down to zoom out. Okay, so that is definitely handy. Okay, my screen is getting a bit stuck there. That's okay. There we go. All right, so now let's have a look at what the data actually is. We've got first name and last name. We've got things getting cut off because all the columns are the same uniform standard width. Okay, so that's something that we notice, is that a lot of the surnames are actually getting cut off there. All right, and we also notice that there's no formatting whatsoever. All the numbers are just in the general number format. How do I know that? You can see all these numbers. They have no formatting at all. These numbers over here look like numbers between 0 and 1. They happen to be in the progress column. And we notice over here, this is actually looking a little bit scientific. 4.8, then an E plus 0.8. And that's because these are actually, if you have a look over there in the formula bar, these are phone numbers. They're mobile numbers, which are not formatted in a professional and presentable way yet. All right, what I'm alluding to is we're going to fix up all these things because we want to be able to make sense of all of our data. We want to work with this data. We want to understand it. We want to be able to manipulate and visualize the data. We want to tell stories. And very importantly, we want to make business decisions from all this data. And speaking of all this data, there's actually a lot of it. There's a lot of data here. How do we know how much data we have? What we're going to do is we're going to scroll down with the wheel on the mouse until our finger gets really, really sore. All right, then we might need a rest, and then we'll use the other finger. We're scrolling and we're scrolling, and that's taking long. We're almost on 1,000, but it just keeps going and going and going. Pop us a message in the chat if you're getting a bit frustrated with this, and if you would prefer us to use another technique. So if you do know what that technique is, let us know in the chat. How can we scroll down to the bottom of our data to see how much data there is? All right, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you here. We can click and hold on this down arrow. That's going to scroll us like this. Roslyn, you've said control and end. That's a great idea. Thank you for that. All right, we've seen there are quite a few suggestions here. End and arrow, control shift down, control. Okay, and Mel, you've said control and down arrow. That's a great idea. Just before we get there, I'm going to show you that we can just click and hold on this little handle over here, and that's going to scroll us down. So that's quite quick. But the quickest, easiest way to teleport to the bottom of the data is to use exactly what Mel said and what Zahira said, and maybe a few other people have said, is control and the down arrow. So we hold down the control key and we press the down arrow key, and it teleports us to the bottom of the data in this particular column that we're in. And we see that Chantal is in row number 14839. So almost 15,000 lines of data. Okay, control and the down arrow. All right, and the opposite of down is up. What goes down must go up. All right. I think at Comrades, they say what goes up must come down, must go up again. All right. Lots of hills. So if we press control down to jump to the bottom of the data and we want to jump back up, we press control and the up arrow. All right. So take a few moments to get used to control up, control down, control left, and control right. All right. And while you do that, I'm going to show you that on our cheat sheet, it's the very first keyboard shortcut. All right, so it's the very first keyboard shortcut on your cheat sheet. It's control and the arrow keys to move or teleport to the start or end of the data. All right, and if I go to the second page of my cheat sheet, you'll find that the very last keyboard shortcut is actually F12, which we showed you, which is to save as. All right, so we've done the first and we've done the last, and we're going to do quite a few in between. All right, a number of you mentioned control shift down arrow. If you do that, what it does is it jumps to the bottom and it selects everything along the way. So shift and the arrow keys, that's a great keyboard shortcut for expanding or reducing the size of the selection. So instead of going and clicking and dragging with your mouse, you can actually just press shift and the arrow keys, and you can combine that with control to teleport and select. So control and shift and the arrow keys. It takes a bit of time to get used to it, to get the hang of it, but you will get the hang of it eventually. All right, and you'll get more and more confident with it. By the way, if you're inside a cell and you're busy editing, you can double click on a specific word to select that word. But did you know that you can actually press Control Shift Right and Control Shift Right again to select word by word by word? And this you can apply in Excel, in Word, in Outlook, in any application, even when you're browsing the internet, or you just want to select a word at a time, you can use Control Shift and the right or left arrow. So very, very handy. Use that. And somebody else mentioned, I think, end and control end. Okay, if you do press control end, you need to, yeah, there we go, control end. That jumps us to the very last cell that we've used, and control home jumps us to cell A1. All right, so control and home takes us home to cell A1 in a similar way to navigating home on Waze or on Google Maps. You just want to press home and you want the quickest route home. So the quickest route home in this case is control and home. And the opposite of that is control and end. And if we have a quick squiz at our cheat sheet over here, you'll see control home over here. You'll see control end over there. You'll see shift and the arrow keys to select data. And you'll also see control shift and the arrow keys, which we use. So we are getting through these shortcuts. I'm pressing alt and tab to toggle between the different applications. And we are ready to show you our first magic trick of the morning. All right, everything's been quite impressive and quite useful up to now. I think maybe that control down and control home is a magic trick. It might seem, as we say, teleporting around the data, but this is really going to impress you. And it's not me trying to impress you, it's Excel showing off when I show you exactly what we're about to do. We are about to revolutionize the way that we actually work with data in Excel. All right, most of us are used to seeing data sets like this and highlighting the headings and changing the color. Maybe you want to change the full color of that. Maybe you want to make them bold. Maybe you want to center them. Okay, most of us have done that manually in the past. Most of us have sorted and filtered data by going and clicking and maybe highlighting all the data and saying sort and filter. And most of the tasks that we've been doing all these years in Excel are actually going to be revolutionized by the following keyboard shortcut and technique, which is to convert our data into what's known as a table in Excel. All right. A table. So it's control and something. All right. Avi's posted that in the chat. Control and something is to convert data to a table. The answer is, anybody know? Has anybody done this before? Pop us just that letter in the chat. Let us know. What is the letter? Okay, there we go. Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Anton. Thank you, Liam. And thank you, Avi, for the cup of tea. Control and T for creating a table. There we go. We just stood somewhere in our data. We press Control T. It's coming up with the create table little box over here. It says my table has headers and it's from A1 to J14839. I click OK or I press Enter. And there we have it. Our data is now formatted beautifully in a table. All right. By the way, we could have accessed this from the ribbon. If we had gone to the insert tab, you'll notice that there is the table icon. All right, and when I hover my mouse cursor over it, it gives me the screen tip, which shows me that it's table, it's Control and T, and it says create a table to organize and analyze related data. It makes it easier to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. All right, and if you want more info on that, you can click tell me more over there. But we notice that it's formatted really, really nicely. We also notice these sort and filter buttons appearing automatically over there. The header row is formatted in a special style. We also notice that we've got an extra tab up on the top of the ribbon. All right, we've got an extra tab at the top of the ribbon called Table Design. Before I show you that, what I want to do is I want to press Control S because I'm so excited about this. I don't want to lose it. And I have just done something revolutionary on my data. So I'm going to save it. Control and S. All right. So now just to have a look around some of the functionality of the table, all right, on the Table Design tab, which is contextual. What do I mean by contextual? I mean that if you go outside of your table, it disappears. We don't need to panic. It's not gone forever. It's just hiding because we were out of context. So it's only when we're actually standing inside the table that we get those features up on the ribbon. All right, so the header row is activated. All right, if I wanted to turn it off, okay, I can untick the tick box. All right, it's not very often that you would need to disable it, but if for whatever reason you want to hide it, you can just disable it. All right, just skipping over, we'll come back to total row in a few moments. I just want to show you banded rows and the benefit of this. You'll see that it actually makes it a lot easier to read when we have the banded rows. If we want to format the first column in a specific style, either in bold or in a different color, we can click on first column and the same for last column. And then we can do banded columns if we want, and we can disable or enable the filter button. And that is the same as this button over here on the data tab that looks like a funnel. All right. And there is a keyboard shortcut for that as well. Control and Shift and L. L stands for lists. You want to filter a list. You don't have to go and highlight the whole list and search for that filter button. You just press Control Shift L. All right, let's go back to the Table Design tab because importantly, you might not like blue. All right, you might prefer orange and you also might not want too much orange, in your face orange. Okay, so what you can do is orange, for example, table style medium 17. Aren't you glad that I showed you that? Okay. Aren't you glad that I'm not a comedian? All right. Okay, so we're going to save our work, Control S, and what we're going to do is we are going to show you the total row. All right, the total row is useful, and you can see here Control, Shift, and T is the keyboard shortcut for the total row. That's exactly what I'm going to press, and what you'll notice is that it jumps us to the very bottom of the data, and you'll notice that it's inserted an extra row over here, and if I untick it, it goes away. All right, so that's something that you can activate and deactivate, and the total row is really brilliant, and I think you're going to love this because it's very common that you want to do calculations on a column of data. All right, so on a column of data, for example, the progress column, this is basically showing, if we just pause or rewind for a moment, our data set over here is actually an export from our learning system, our learning platform. And the export, the actual data is showing all the people, all the students that we've got doing our online courses, and it's showing us their progress on a specific course. All right, you can rest assured, those of you legally inclined, that we are not infringing on any poppy issues because we have jumbled up the first names and last names, and we've made up a whole lot of random, nonsensical mobile numbers or fake mobile numbers. All right, so we've jumbled up the first names and last names, and we're showing the progress of each person on that particular course. And there's a good chance that it will be helpful for us, for me and Avi, to have a look at what's the overall average progress across everyone who's done it or who's busy with our training. So what we can do is we can go into the total row, and we'll notice that there's a very handy drop down with a list of calculations. All right, and the first one over here we see is average. So we can just select that from the list, and we've got 0.879, in other words, just under 88% average progress across everyone, across all these different courses, of which it looks like there's Excel 101, 202, 303, and then Outlook Secrets. Okay, so we're seeing what looks to be 4 types of courses, 4 categories here, or 4 unique courses over there. And we see that the average progress is 0.879. We are going to format these numbers in this table very shortly because they're in general format and they're not telling the story as well as they could be. All right, but I wanted to show you the total row over here. What we can do as well is we can count up how many people there are, although it's already been done. You can see that it's applied a count calculation here to the final column, which is the column for organization. And by the way, we're now at the bottom of the data. Isn't it cool that we can see what the column headers are? All right, I know it's been a frustration for you, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe countless times, that you scroll down in your data and you can't see what the headings are. And that's because the top row hasn't been frozen. So we can do it using view and freeze panes. All right, where's the freeze panes button? There it is. All right, but if you're in table mode, it does it for you automatically. Okay, it does it for you automatically. And how does it know to do that? It's because we're in table mode. So we've scrolled down in the data and it automatically changes from ABC into first name, last name, mobile number. You'll actually see what happens if you click out of the table. There we go. We got our ABC and there we go. So that really helps us to see what's going on and to work with the data. Okay, so next up, let's jump up to the top of our data. But before we do that, let's have a look at, by the way, I'm pressing Control S because I put in my total row and I save it. And what I want to show you is a way to quickly and easily format your numbers in your table. So do we all agree that this column is the progress column and it should be formatted in percentage format? All right, I'm sure we do all agree. And we all agree that on the home tab, there is the little percentage icon over there. Maybe you've seen it and you've used it. Have you ever noticed that there's a keyboard shortcut that it's telling us there? Control and Shift and percent. All right, Control, Shift, and percent. And where is the percentage button? On most of your keyboards, it's above the number 5. So we can press Control, Shift, and 5. And there we go. It changes that from 0.95 to 95%. Wonderful. All right. The only issue is it's done it only to one person, one cell. All right. So that's one cell at a time. I'm going to undo that with Control Z, which we mentioned earlier, which Abby will pop in the chat. Control Z to undo. What I do want to do is I want to select the entire column. I can do this using the mouse. Okay, you'll see if I click it once, it selects all the data. If I click it again, it also includes the total row. And if I click it a third time, then it goes all the way down to the bottom of Excel. Instead of that, I want to show you a keyboard shortcut, which I think you're going to love. And it is Control and Spacebar to select the entire column. For some unknown reason, you're actually not seeing the column being selected over there. On my screen, I am seeing those numbers being highlighted. I'm sure on your screen, it's actually showing. I'm not sure why it's doing this. All right, I'm going to press it again, Control Spacebar. All right, let me actually press it once, twice. Okay, it's actually misbehaving. It was meant to select all the data like that, but not including the total row. And then when you press it again, it should include the total row. And when you press it a third time, then it selects all the way down to 1,000,000. All right, how do we know that there are 1,000,000 or more rows in Excel? If we apply our keyboard shortcut, let's take a quick segue. Control and the down arrow. All right, you'll see that we've just teleported to the end of the Excel world. All right, Excel does indeed have a limit. When we ask this question, we get a lot of people saying infinity. Okay, it doesn't go on forever. It actually, a spreadsheet ends at row number 1,048,576, a number which I assume would have caused some challenges for some of our former statesmen, all right, to actually pronounce. Okay, it's a big number, 1,048,576, and we can go back up using Control and the up arrow. All right, so there's a lot of space in Excel. There's over 1,000,000 rows, and we don't want to be selecting and doing stuff to 1,000,000 cells. If we want to make something bold, we want to make this column bold, we don't really want to be selecting and bolding 1,000,000 cells. That's overkill, and it's a waste of time and resources. So what we do instead is we press Control Spacebar, and then we press Control Shift and 5. Okay, you'll see that what it's done over there is it's formatted all the data. As I said, if you press it a second time, it should work. Mine is misbehaving a little bit, and we can make sure that this total cell over here is also formatted by pressing Control Shift 5. All right, it's just another opportunity to practice to do it to the total row over there. And what we want to do is maybe have 1 or 2 decimal places for the total row. We're happy with no decimals for here, but for the total row, I think it'll be useful because it's actually 87.9. So we can go here to increase decimal, and we might want 2 or 3 decimals, or maybe just 1 is okay. All right, so I'm going to save my work, 87.9%, and that's great. This time, I'm going to jump up to the top of our data. Now we're back at the top. We can see our orange headings over there. And once again, we're going to apply that same keyboard shortcut, which is Control and Spacebar. All right, where's the spacebar? Where the aliens go to have a drink. There we go. Thank you, Avi. All right. And we're going to press Control Spacebar, and we're going to press Control Shift and the number 3. All right, which is Control Shift and hash. And that formats our dates as dates. How did I know they were dates? Because the clue was last activity, and the other clue was that they were 43,000 and something, 44,000 and something, etc. And that is Excel's date code. All right, where did it start? 44 or 45,000 days ago. All right, that was at the beginning of 1900. That's when Excel's date calendar actually started. And every day, that number gets 1 larger, 1 bigger. All right, it adds 1 to that date, which actually is brilliant because then it means you can do calculations with dates, which is exactly what we're going to show you in a few moments. I want to go to member since. I want to press Control Spacebar again. All right, repetition is great. Practice is great. It makes the skills permanent. So here we're giving you many opportunities to actually practice the same thing. Control Spacebar and then Control Shift 3. By the way, your date format might look slightly different to mine, and that's okay. That just means that your default date setting or format on your computer is different. Mine's got it in custom over here, and you can see that 16 Sept 19 is actually showing it differently in the formula bar. In the formula bar, it's showing it as the year first. So let's not get too bogged down by that. Just know that those are different ways to format the same actual value, the same date in Excel, and you can play around with different options. And there's actually region settings as well. If you tell your computer that you're in Scotland or you're in the United States, it will probably give you default date format settings. All right, just quickly on SAST. You might have seen that abbreviation before. It stands for South African Standard Time. And this is a time code. Okay, so this is a number between 0 and 1, and it represents the time of the day. So if we select the whole column with Control Spacebar, and then we press Control Shift 2, you'll notice that it converts it into an actual time, which is very useful. Okay, and our data is looking much, much neater. All right. We're going to get onto a couple of other number formats, some custom number formats in a moment, but something's actually really bugging me, and it's these organizations over here. They are spilling over the edge. All right, we definitely need to widen this column. In fact, I think we should widen the whole database, the whole data set, the whole table to accommodate the widest values in each column. So for example, I can see here that this value is getting cut off, and there are probably quite a few of these surnames that are actually not fitting, and maybe some first names if we were to go all the way down. So what we want to do is we want to auto fit the columns to the appropriate width for each column. We can do that the traditional way using the mouse. What did I do? I clicked on the little triangle between A and 1. And then I can go in between A and B or B and C or C and D or any of these column letters. All right. And I can simply double click. And what that does is it auto fits each column. Okay, I'm going to Control Z to undo that because, of course, I want to show you a keyboard shortcut for this. All right. First things first, we want to select all the data. So we press Control A for all. All right, you'll notice that it's selected all the data, but it actually hasn't included the headers. All right, so this is something that we can see again and again here within a table is it works. Firstly, the first level is on the data inside the table. The second level includes the headers and the total rows if we press it again. And the third level is if we press it again, then and only then does it actually select every other cell in Excel. Okay, we saw that with Control Spacebar, and we've seen it now with Control A. And then we can either take our mouse and click over here, auto fit column width. All right. You probably won't have that on your quick access toolbar. And that's because I've put it there. I've customized my quick access toolbar. If you use this feature a lot, auto fit column width, and you also want it on your quick access, you can find it on the home tab and the format button. You'll see item number 4 is auto fit column width, and you can right click on that button and you can say add to quick access toolbar, and it's going to put it there. But the main reason that I've got it there is not to actually go and click on it. The main reason is to take advantage of a magic key on our keyboard. When you are using Excel or any other program on the computer, it's a game changer. We typically only show you this in Excel 101, but because I'm excited about it and we have a few extra moments over here, I'm going to show it to you now. All right. And I know how much you're going to enjoy this. The magic, what key? Who knows? Pop me a message in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. What is the key that I'm talking about, which can let me activate any button or feature on the ribbon? What's the key? It's a magic key. There we go, Liam. Excellent. The Alt key. If I press Alt on my keyboard, I just tap it. Look, Mom, no hands. I'm not holding it. I just tap it. You'll see a whole lot of buttons, a whole lot of letters over here and numbers over here. You'll feel panic, maybe. Maybe in the past you felt panic. So you don't need to feel panic. The good news is that you have not broken anything. All right. The good news is that these are little hotkeys to activate any button or feature or tab or area in the ribbon, and you would just need to follow the prompts. So to go to the data tab, you'd press A and you'd follow the prompts along there. But what is really cool is you've got numbers for each of the buttons on your quick access toolbar. So I've got 1 for me for auto fit column width because I've put it there. So I'm going to press the number 1 and there we go. I've now auto fitted it nice and quickly. And I'm doing this all the time, working with data, fitting, changing column widths. So Control A to select the data and then Alt and then the number 1. Very, very useful indeed. Give us a reaction, give us a thumbs up or something exciting if you enjoyed that. Okay, brilliant. Lots of hearts, lots of party. I think Zoom used to give more reactions anyway. Yeah, that's okay. Cool. All right, guys, we're going to save our work. Control S. We are conscious of time. We've got lots more that we want to cover, but it is already 11:15. What we want to do now is what I mentioned a few moments ago, which is to show you some custom number formatting. And the reason for that is because these mobile numbers have lost their 0. All right. And why does that happen? Because when you put in a 0 at the beginning of a number for a cell phone number or an ID number or a postal code, Excel thinks it's a waste of time. It thinks it's insignificant. We need to instruct it to display it because it is not a waste of time. It is significant indeed. So we press Control Spacebar to select the column. Then we notice that we can activate the Format Cells dialog box by clicking on that little arrow over there, or by right-clicking and saying Format Cells, or by using a brand new keyboard shortcut that maybe you've never seen before, and it is Control and 1. Control 1 on our keyboard. All right, not the one on the far right of the keyboard, the one on the top left. Okay, Control 1. It opens up the Format Cells dialog box. We can go down to Custom, and where it says General, we're going to select General, double click on it, or backspace it, or highlight it, whatever you want. And we are going to overwrite that. Instead of General, we are going to put in 10 zeros, because it should be a 10-digit cell phone number, and it should always be padded with an extra 0 if there's a 0 missing. So that's what we're basically telling Excel. We're using 0 to indicate that there must be 10 digits, including a 0 at the start. All right. We click OK. And by the way, if the number was 56, you'll see it pads it with 8 zeros. Okay. So we're just telling it that if there are missing digits, it must just add in extra zeros. I'm going to press Control Z. And there we go. You can see the underlying number in the formula bar is still missing a 0, but it's displaying with a 0 over here. What I want to show you now, just before we move on, is that we can apply custom formats, which is really useful to a bunch of numbers. So what do I mean by custom format? Custom symbols or units. Units is a good one. So for example, I was actually working on a comrade's spreadsheet, a little pace calculator and nutrition calculator. So I wanted kilometers. Each thing I wanted km next to it. So if you select the whole column with Control Spacebar, you'll notice that you don't have a kilometer option over here. If you go to more number formats, by the way, look at that list over there. We got general, we got all of these over here, and we can click more number formats. Again, it opens up the same thing, format cell. But you'll see you don't have kilometers. All right. So what you do have is you've got custom. And the way that we can do this is, instead of general, we can say 0, all right, which symbolizes the actual number. All right, so we put a 0 over there. And then we're going to put a quotation mark and a km and a quotation mark. And we look at the sample. Before we click OK, we look at the sample over there, and there we go. It's showing it as 4 km, 4 kilometers. All right, if we wanted it to show as 4.0, we can put in a 0.0. All right, so we've got 0.0 and then km. If we wanted a second decimal place, we could put another 0. Okay, so you can really play around here, and just remember that if you want something unique, or let's say you wanted kilograms, okay, you just change that to kg, or grams, you change it to grams. If you wanted it to show as miles, you can just show it as miles. If you want a space between the number and miles, you just edit it like that. So you can really customize very nicely over there. And what you'll notice is that the underlying number still is 2 or 4 or 7, etc. Okay, it's just showing it with a unique unit over there. Okay, I'm going to press Control Z because I definitely don't want it to show as miles. All right, sign-in count, in fact, is just the number of times that a person has actually signed in. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to combine first name and last name. All right. So what about creating a full name column? I think that'll be something very, very useful. All right. We've got a list of first names here. We've got last names. How do we create a full name column? The first thing we're going to do is we need to make some space. We need to manufacture some space so that we can in between last name and mobile number, we got space to actually create this new column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on column C over there and say insert. All right. And then I'm going to undo that because I wanted to show you the mouse way. And now I'm going to show you the keyboard way. All right. So I'm going to press Control Spacebar. All right. And then I'm going to press Control, Shift, and plus. All right. The plus button is next to the backspace. It's above the equals, so Control, Shift, and plus. But something that you notice when you do this is that it messes up the column widths of all the other columns. So I'm going to press Control Z to undo, and I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to show you that we're going to press Control Spacebar once, twice, 3 times. As we press Control Spacebar a 3rd time, and then we press Control, Shift, and plus. All right. So what that has done is it's maintained the original column widths for all those columns, which is great. I'm going to change column 1 to full name, and I am going to start some serious manual labor. I better block off my calendar for the rest of today because this is going to take me ages. Ooh, what have I noticed? Maybe it's not going to take me the whole day, because what's happened here? Isn't this interesting? It's penciled in everything that I want. All right, it's picked up the pattern. Okay, so it's actually showing me what can be done if we just press enter. Okay, isn't that brilliant? It's actually picked up the pattern and it's done all the work for me. This is a relatively new feature within Excel. It was added in the last few years, and it is called Flash Fill. All right, you'll notice that we get a little pop-up over there, and it says we can undo the flash fill, we can accept the suggestions, we can select all the changed cells. We're very happy with it. I'm going to undo what we've done, Control Z, and I just want to show you quickly that you can actually press Control E on your keyboard to do flash fill. All right, so if we go back to our cheat sheet, you'll notice that Control E is over there, flash fill. We've got a whole lot of alphabetical control shortcuts, including Control E for flash fill. So that is really, really handy. Okay, Control S. And believe it or not, that's AI. That's Excel, some of Excel's AI functionality, which has actually been there for a while, before the big AI buzzword when ChatGPT was first launched, which I think was about 2.5 years ago. So there's been AI functionality built into our everyday lives, which we can take advantage of. All right, conscious of time, we have another couple of minutes. What I want to do is I want to show you a couple of things. If I jump down to the bottom of my data, what I did want to show you is that our overall average progress for all our courses, for all our students over here, is 87.9. And just quickly to touch on the sort and filter button, which is available here, even if I'm at the bottom of my data. If I want to show only the Excel 101 people, all right, I can deselect where it says select all, and I can tick Excel 101. I click OK, and there we go. We can see the progress for Excel 101 is actually higher than the average, so it's 88.8. If I want to show 202, it's 86.7, slightly below the average. If I want to show 303, it's 81.5. And if I wanted to show Outlook Secrets, it's 95.2. All right, what you'll notice is that this is brilliant. The actual formula in the total row is the subtotal function or formula. You don't have to worry about how to program that for now. It's good to be curious and to look into it. But what you just need to know is that you just need to use the drop down over here to change functions. And because it's subtotal, it recalculates every time you filter the data, which it wouldn't do if you were using a traditional equals average function. Okay, and that's inherently built in to the total row in table mode because it knows, it's intuitive. It knows you might be filtering the data. All right, the clues, we've got a couple of clues that this data has in fact been filtered. The one clue is that it says here, we've got a little funnel in the filter button over there. In the sort and filter button, there's a little funnel showing us that it's been filtered. And we've got a whole lot of blue row numbers over here showing us that the data has in fact been filtered. You'll notice that I've actually put the clear filter button, okay, which is right over there. I have right clicked and I've said add to quick access toolbar. So for me, I can activate that button by pressing Alt and the number 2 to clear the filter. Okay, now I can jump back up to the top of my screen. And there's one last feature within Excel that I want to show you before telling you for a minute about our courses and then handing over for a minute to Greg from Skillfully. And this is the conditional formatting feature. All right, so I'm going to bring onto the screen for a moment. Here you can see these are our WhatsApp groups. All right, where we are tracking the progress of our students. So here's a demo group. All right, so again, we don't have to worry about Poppy. And what I just wanted to show you here is that we've got progress We split it up into different columns, but essentially the main point is that it's visually appealing because it's at a glance. You don't even have to look at the numbers. You can see who's finished the course, anyone in green, and who hasn't started, anyone in red, and who's in progress, anyone in orange or yellow. All right, and the way to do that is leveraging the power of conditional formatting. So I'm going to select the whole of the progress column, once again using Control Spacebar. And then I'm going to go to the Home tab, and I see here's the conditional formatting button. Okay. And the fourth item on the list is color scales. And we can apply this color gradient to a range of cells. All right. If I hover over, it actually doesn't do it for me. Okay, I'll need to click on it. I'm going to click on the first one, which is green, yellow, red. And there we go. And isn't that brilliant? Much, much, much quicker and more efficient than trying to do this manually. All right. And also dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? If Devin actually had done 50% and we change it, there we go. It changes to orange. If he was actually on 0, it changes it to red. All right. So that's conditional formatting. You can also use this to highlight duplicates. Okay, so let me show you quickly. If you want to find if there are any duplicate names in the list, we can press Control Spacebar on the full name column, and we can say conditional formatting, highlight cells rules, and you'll see here duplicate values. And we can format cells that contain duplicates with light red fill. So we'll just click OK. We're happy with that. It's not looking at first glance like there are any duplicates, but there are, in fact. If we go to the sort and filter button, you'll see that we can filter the data not just by the names, but we can do it by color as well, the actual cell color or the font color. And there we go. You can see there must be 2 Leon Duplessis or 2 Janine Taylors. All right, so that's an interesting one. 2 people with the exact same names, different mobile numbers. They're both doing 101, but they have the same name. So this is something to look out for. All right, and once again, our row numbers are in blue over there. And again, we can clear the filter. We can save our work. Sometimes at the end of these masterclasses, we cover pivot tables, a basic pivot table. That we've just run out of time, so it's beyond the scope for today. But in order to learn more about data analysis and more about pivot tables and VLOOKUPs and formulas and functions, etc., you will need to enroll in our actual training. Our courses are fun and interactive. And what you'll see over here is that we typically do an onboarding session for a group at an organization. We get everybody onboarded, showing them how it works and how to log into the platform and access their training. And then we add them to a WhatsApp group, and they get target completion dates of 3 weeks per course, and we track and we monitor and support them as they go. And the success rate is really, really high. The engagement rate is high, and people appreciate the flexibility of being able to access the training in their own time and at their own pace. It's a big, big advantage when compared to traditional in-person training. All right, let me, by the way, save my work again, Control S.